I work for agcareers.com, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Today, our goal is to give you insight into different summer work and internship opportunities, and also to find out about things that are available in the agriculture and food industries and explore the variety of backgrounds and educational paths that can lead to jobs in these industries. A few items to mention before we get started today. This will be a panel-style webinar, and you will have the opportunity to hear from each of our panelists that's with us today. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box, and we will address them at the end of our presentation. If you are asking a question today, please indicate whether you're wanting to ask all of the panelists or whether there's one particular person that your question is for. Your mics and videos are already off for today's event, so that chat function will be how you ask us your questions. We are recording today's event, so if you do want to follow up afterwards, you're welcome to check it out. It'll be posted online after today's event. For all of our panelists, thank you for being here today. We are happy to have 5 panelists with us. They include Cody Williams, who works for agcareers.com, Rachel Wolvet, who works for farms.com, Ria Hack, who works for the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Carleen Scott, who works for the University of Guelph Ridgetown campus, and Suzanne Vandermeulen, who works for Cappersfield Dairy Farm. I will let each of them introduce themselves and tell you more about their specific internship or summer job opportunities once we dive into the panel discussion today. Today's event has been sponsored and provided through our Feed Your Future initiative that is funded through the Canadian Agriculture Partnership Funding, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and agcareers.com and careersinfood.com. We have a number of upcoming events as part of our Feed Your Future initiative. If you are currently looking for a new career opportunity in agriculture or food, we have 3 upcoming virtual career fairs that you can sign up to attend online and network with employers. You can bring your resume and apply for jobs directly at these online events. They're a great networking opportunity. We also have 3 more job seeker webinars that include making the most out of an entry-level position on August 11th, navigating a virtual career fair on August 17th, and your future in agriculture on October 6th. You can find all the details of these upcoming events and sign up online at agcareers.com or careersinfood.com in our Feed Your Future section. During today's webinar, you will have the opportunity to get to know our panelists as they answer questions about their education and their background and their current roles and advice that they'd give to someone looking to pursue a career in this sector. As I mentioned before, we are happy to answer any other questions that you might have. Be sure to leave your questions in the chat box today and we will address them at the end. Now on to our panelists. The first thing that I'd like us to go through with our panelists, starting with Cody, is that I would like us to hear a little bit more about you. So what is the job that you are currently working at? What company and location? And what is your role? And what program did you take in college or university? And how has that helped you with your internship? So Cody, you can have a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Cody, and I'm currently an intern with agcareers.com. My title is a virtual career fair coordinator. So broadly speaking, my job is basically to work with different companies in the agriculture and food industry and help them connect their job opportunities with clients. So we do that in a number of different ways. I help add some jobs to the job boards that we have on careersinfood.com and agcareers.com. And more importantly, as to my job is the virtual career fairs. So like Katie was talking about earlier, we have a couple different events that we run where all these companies get together to connect with job seekers to allow them to see the different jobs that are available. I'm halfway through my bachelor's degree in international business management. So that's what, and I'm doing a co-op term right now. So that's how I found this job. It's interesting because obviously international business management, you wouldn't necessarily think an agriculture industry, or one might not think that, but it definitely connects very well.
Great. Thank you, Cody. Rachel, would you like to share with us about your background, your education, and what you're doing for your internship opportunity?
Yeah, for sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Rachel, and I currently work with farms.com. My role is a graphic design intern, and some of the things that involve in my job are making different like web banners and graphics to help promote events such as this one here today. I also work on different like layouts for different publications for Ag Careers as well as farms.com. And I also work with the Ag Careers marketing team to help come up with social media campaign ideas for outreach and overall engagement as well. So my program title, I go to Conestoga College for the Bachelor of Design program. And I am currently going into my fourth year starting January. So I have a year left. So I'm in my co-op term. That's how I found farms.com. And I think how that program really helped me with this job in particular is the stressor of industry standards and just really getting us prepared to work within the design industry. So yeah, they definitely did a really good job of preparing me for this position overall.
Perfect. That's great. Great summary. Next, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your background, your education, and what your role is this summer.
For sure. So thank you so much, Katie, for having me be a part of the panel. I was really excited. So my name is Ria, and I am currently finishing up my master's in research and policy evaluation, and I work at OMAFRA, which is the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. So as an intern, my actual title is policy and program assistant, and a lot of the work that I do is researching and reaching out to external stakeholders to kind of combine a bunch of case studies to study the local foods best practices. So a lot of my focus has been seeing how different farms, different organizations, and municipalities have pivoted during COVID-19 and how that has affected the world of agriculture. So personally, I actually have no sort of background in ag. It's been all poli-sci. So in 2019, I finished my bachelor's from the University of Toronto in political science, and I went on to do my first master's at Western, also in political science. And those were both academic programs, but the one that I'm doing currently is a professional program. So it combines a internship term. So this is my internship term. In hopefully 4 weeks, I'm done my master's and I'll be done the program successfully. But the way that program kind of helped me navigate my internship opportunities is that I was given really a plethora of different opportunities to kind of dabble into. So it wasn't just like go into policy or go into something in Ottawa or do something related to poli-sci. It was like whatever kind of comes to mind. So when I was applying for internships, I really wanted a government job. And I was thankful enough that OMAFRA had a position available. So it's been a lot of learning, it's been a lot of like researching, and there's new things I learn every single day, including like hearing from you folks today. It's been really interesting. So I look forward to kind of learning more and sharing my experiences. Thank you.
Great. That's really interesting, Ria. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Next, we are going to hear from Carlene Scott. So Carlene, could you let us know about your background and your internship opportunities that you've been able to work in?
Yeah, hello everybody. Sorry for the lack of camera, but I currently work at the University of Guelph Ridgetown campus, and I have worked here in many different jobs, mostly as a summer student, but recently I was able to get a full-time job here. So I went to the University of Guelph, but I have my honors sociology BA. So that's very different from what I'm currently doing. But I grew up on a farm, so I kind of had that background rather than my schooling background to help me here. Schooling, I did a lot of writing. I haven't done much yet here with that. A lot of this job right now is maintaining field trials. So we're out there hoeing and making sure we're getting data collection So it's a lot of hot days, but hopefully in the winter I'll be able to do a bit more of the writing.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you so much. Up next, we're going to hear from Zeus. Do you want to share a little bit about your educational background and the path it's led you on and your current job opportunity?
Yeah, sure. So hi, my name is Zeus. I finished my diploma in agriculture at the University of Guelph Bridgetown campus. And now I am pursuing the diploma in the Dairy Herdsperson apprenticeship. So I did my first year and now I still have one more year left. I currently work at Coppersfield Dairy, just outside of Moorfield, which is north of Guelph. They milk 300 cows. We have 5 milking Lely robots. My job includes, as a herdsperson, I do anything from breeding, hoof trimming, calf care. I do a lot of equipment work, a little bit on the field, and then also the regular bedding, cleaning, and maintenance of anything on the farm. And I've been doing a bit more of the paperwork and the more computer side of things the last while. So that is what my job includes.
Great. Thank you all for sharing about your background and your career opportunities or internship opportunities that you're exploring this summer. It's a really diverse group in terms of your education path that you've chosen so far and the jobs that you're working in. So it's great to hear there's so many different kinds of opportunities available to us in agriculture and in food. So the next question that I am going to ask actually to the entire panel again is I see a lot of you come to your career with a unique perspective that maybe isn't agriculture as your educational background or maybe the background that you grew up in. So I'd like you to share with us how your unique perspective brings something into your career because you've come to this industry maybe without that agriculture background. So we'll go through the same group. Cody, would you be able to start with that question, please?
Sure. So I've always been very customer forward. I've always been really focused on customer service, and I've always really enjoyed working with people, which is one of the reasons why a career in agriculture and food just didn't seem like something that was viable for me. I never really connected those two kind of paths together until I started working here, and I realized just how deep how many different opportunities there are within the industry. So I get to spend a lot of time working with customers, working with clients, working with different companies, and helping connect them with job seekers, answering questions, and working with people way more than I would have ever expected. So I was able to take my expertise in customer service and really directly apply it to a role in the agriculture industry, which I think is just incredible.
Great, thank you. Rachel, would you like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. So coming into this job, I had no agricultural experience whatsoever. So I wouldn't even have known to look at an agriculture business for a graphic design job if it weren't for my school. So I really didn't have any preconceived notions about what this job might entail coming into it. And I think that definitely allowed me to stay confident in my abilities as a designer because I didn't feel intimidated or overwhelmed by anything coming into this job. Yeah, and I think just as my short time here, I've only been here for about 2 months now. I've learned a lot about the industry and like it's very technologically advanced more than I thought, and things are constantly changing. And I think that goes for graphic design as well. So those two go really well hand in hand within my job, and I can apply a lot of the things I learned in school to this industry, which I didn't think was an option before. So that's really great.
That's great. Andrea, would you like to share with us as well?
For sure. So I kind of my answer is kind of similar to Cody's, where I've been always the type of person who likes working with people, and I like being in like a customer service kind of setting. So working in the government, you get to do a lot of networking with other ministries, with a lot of different stakeholders. So I feel like that's where I was very kind of comfortable, and the research part, because of my educational background, it's just feels like second nature now. But a lot of learning has been done in the sector of like, I was very uneducated kind of about like farms and what happens on farms and like the importance of like local food suppliers and stuff. So every single day by reading like the policy drafts and just like conducting these interviews that I've been conducting over the past couple of months, I've been learning a lot about the struggles of farmers and the importance of building a connection, like a human connection with these folks. So that's where I would say like a lot of learning has taken place for sure.
That's great. It's interesting to hear the different perspectives that people bring into their careers based on their backgrounds. So thank you for sharing. Carlene, would you like to share how your education and background has added some unique perspective into your career?
Yep. So I did come from an agriculture background, but farming as like an individual or a company is extremely different from doing research. So through school, it was sociology, but they were still doing research. So that kind of helped me to understand like the different, what goes into research, how much work you have to put in to get just what a farmer would take as a simple answer. And, oh, I will just do this. You don't really see the background behind how he understood what he needed to do in the field in order to do his job as well as he can. So I think that is what really helped me, just the importance of research and the importance of coming to the conclusion that best helps farmers out.
That's great. Thank you. And last but not least, Zeus, would you like to share how I know you have an ag background and you're working in agriculture, but you do have a unique background as well. So would you like to share how that has added to your career that you're working in now?
Yeah, sure. Agriculture has always something I've always been super passionate about, especially in the dairy industry. I get it a lot from my dad. He's a dairy nutritionist, and it's always been something in my family that way. So as soon as I was old enough, I was milking in a parlor when I was like 12. Like, it's been something I've always wanted to do and something I always want to keep doing. And then when I went to college, a lot of students who did grow up on a dairy farm their whole life and were a lot more familiar with it since day one when I was coming into it a bit older. So in college, it's very interesting. I was one of the people that was asking more different types of questions. Other people would just settle for the answer, my dad did it this way, I'll do it this way. But when you don't come from a farm, there's no way that your dad did it. So you want to explore all those options and all the different ways and the best ways of doing things. So for me, that was a bit of a different perspective that I have compared to maybe kids that did grow up on a farm. Not saying everyone's that way, but it is something that I noticed for sure going to school with a lot of other agricultural students.
Awesome. That's great. I really enjoyed hearing what you all had to say about the perspectives that you bring to your career. I think that it's a great opportunity for employers to look at many different areas to hire from for their agriculture and food careers, because these different backgrounds and different education pathways can certainly lend lots of opportunities for growth within the business and new ideas and fresh ideas. So thank you very much for sharing that. So just changing gears a little bit, I do want to hear from each of you about some of the different things within your careers. So I'm going to start asking some questions that are just to a couple of you. So one of the things, technology is a huge thing. A couple of you have mentioned involvement with technology in your jobs. And I am interested about what technology or innovative equipment you might use in your job. And I know for each of you, your jobs are quite different from each other. So this might be different for each of you in terms of what you do in your jobs. Rachel, I would like to know what kind of technology and applications you use so that our viewers today can hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for graphic design, if anyone's familiar with the Adobe Creative Suite, that's mainly what I use on a daily basis and what I used in my Conestoga College program as well. So I'm definitely very familiar with that, and I think that was a bonus coming into this job. I didn't really need any training in terms of how to use those different softwares. And in terms of just like, I guess, apps or anything like that, I know email kind of seems like an obvious one, but something that I didn't do a couple years prior, but have gotten into the habit of doing is organizing my email inboxes, which I feel like is something that seems pretty simple, but definitely is very helpful and when it comes to this job and communication and everything. But yeah, I mainly just work on a computer and use Adobe software such as like InDesign to create layouts for publications and different other apps to create graphics and such.
Great. And so I'm sure the technology that you use on a dairy farm is probably a lot different than what Rachel uses in her office. So Suze, could you talk to us a little bit about the technology that you use day to day in your job?
Yeah, sure. So the number one biggest one would be a program that Lily uses called Time for Cows, T4C for short. We use it for basically everything that we need to do as far as treating cows, breeding cows, any record keepings of calvings, when we need to dry them off, when they need to be changed from a low lactating group to the higher producing group. When we change their diets, when we give them any medications, we put it all in there. It also collects all our information as to how our butter fat is doing, how our protein is doing, how much milk the cows are producing every day. Everything that we can benefit from to improve the dairy farm is all on there. It's just a matter of knowing how to use it. So I've definitely been learning more and more as I go. You learn how to breed a cow, so you also have to learn how to put that in the computer. So those kind of things are the biggest one. So on the computer, and then they also have other technology that goes with the Lely computer program, like the robots that milk the cows. And then you also have the collars that the cows wear on their necks, and we use those for heat detection and also rumination to see how healthy they are, if they're off or if they're doing okay. So a lot of things that we have here on the farm are all from Lely, and then all very connected towards the computer program.
Great. And the other side of that, hands-on agriculture, I'm interested about what is happening with technology when you're doing crop research. So Carlene, could you tell us a little bit about what kind of technology you are using and working with in your job?
There is technology on just about every piece of equipment now that we use. It's not universal, especially here at the college, because we have some older equipment that of course still gets used because it's just what works for us. But sprayers, so a lot of spraying is done with the big tractors, but there's also backpack spraying. So just you have to know what rate you're putting the spray on. So there's a lot of technology involved with that, measuring it, making sure everything's prepared correctly to get it on the field. Then out in the field, we usually have weather stations just to monitor, because a lot of the trials aren't on campus. They're in different parts of Ontario. So we monitor the weather at each of the different places. And some of them, we are monitoring the amount of nitrogen in the soil. So we have different tools that we leave out in the field, and they'll sit there and we'll take recordings off them every week or so. So we were doing some of that setting up this morning. And yeah, there's computer programs too. I haven't gotten to use them too much yet when analyzing the data that we take out of the field. That's a main winter job for us here. So I hope I get to experience that a bit more this year.
Great. That's awesome. It's really interesting to hear how the technology is different in your different roles. And I'm sure we would find even more variety across different agriculture and food jobs in the industry in terms of what technology is being used. And that's something that's constantly shifting and evolving. And sometimes our different backgrounds and perspectives help us to utilize that technology more efficiently. The next question that I want to dive into is, what advice would you give someone who might be trying to find the right career and education path for them? The first person that I'd like to ask that question of is Ria. Would you like to answer that?
For sure. So that question is something I feel like I honestly also wonder about now, because I have so many friends and people kind of in that like early 20 stage where like, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right program? Do I want to continue doing this? Especially with COVID, I feel like a lot of folks have really taken the time to step back and think like, what am I doing with my life in a way? And also if what I'm doing is worthwhile. So for me, honestly, what I would advise others is that whatever you're passionate about, like if you're only going after the money, I don't think that's a fruitful career or like something that's going to be sustainable in the long term. So of course, like you can learn how to code and make like, I don't know, like if you go on TikTok and Twitter, you'll see like, oh, learn how to code in like 6 weeks and you'll get like a 6-figure job right off the bat. I don't think that's sustainable in the long term. So if you're passionate about something and you know you're good at something, pursue it, the money will follow. Like I'm a big believer in that. If you're good at something and you genuinely like doing something. And another option would be kind of using the resources that you have at your college or university, where there are people there to help support you in navigating through that area. So always take advantage of all the resources that are available to you and do a little bit of exploring of yourself. So for example, a lot of my searching has really taken place on LinkedIn by connecting with other folks and just having like a 5-minute coffee chat and seeing what they're doing if I see myself being in that position someday. So definitely like top key things would be networking, using your resources and really trying to put the money aside and go for what you want to do as opposed to what you're kind of fed or kind of taught, like do it to make quick money or something. So that's what I would say personally.
That's great advice, Ria. It's a lot nicer getting up and going to work every day when you're going to a job that you love. So I think that's certainly an important point and good for you in making those connections and that networking and thinking about those people that are maybe where you want to be and connecting with those people and asking them how they got there. Great
For sure.
job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cody, I'd like to ask you that same question. If there was advice that you might have about finding that right career and educational path. I know you kind of found agriculture by chance, but how would you give advice to other people that might be looking for some career advice to get an internship and land an internship that they enjoy?
Sure. So the biggest piece of career advice that I'd offer, especially if it's an internship, is to just keep an open mind. Being open-minded when you're going into your career search is super important. I find, and a lot of people that I know, if they went in with a very narrow search and they were only looking for one very specific thing, they ended up, a lot of times ended up being pretty disappointed when they weren't able to get exactly what they wanted. But if you go in with the understanding that it's a learning opportunity and you're going to learn more about what you want, what's available, what's out there, and you go in with that broad, open perspective, then that leaves you with a lot more of an opportunity to absorb a lot of really great experiences and information. Like I've said it a lot throughout the webinar, but I obviously did not expect to find myself in an agriculture and food industry whatsoever. But because I had that open mind and I was willing to try these new experiences, it really opened the door to a lot of great opportunities that are going to be available to me in the future. So yeah, just to reiterate, keep that open mind. Don't get fixated on one specific thing. You can be passionate about something, which is great, but realize that you can find that passion in a lot more places than you might have expected at first.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Cody. So the next question that I have is actually going to be for everybody on the panel. And I'm wondering what your biggest takeaway from your job has been so far. So what has been maybe the most eye-opening or the biggest learning curve or thing that you would take away from this job so far maybe? Maybe there will be, goals that you think you will meet by the end of your internship. So I'm interested to hear that. We will start with Suze.
I would say, yeah, for me, the biggest thing that I take away from my job every day is I still love it. Every time I come home, I enjoy it more every day, and I feel like this is where I'm meant to be. I have that affirmation every time I leave the barn and the cows are bedded and fed and everything is well taken care of. And I just get that confidence in myself that, wow, okay, you can do this. like keep going. Like it's a good encouragement also for yourself. And I think everybody is allowed to also tell yourself that you can be proud of yourself for the talents and the skills that you have. And then when you pursue them, to also see the fruit that comes from working hard and pursuing what you're called to do. I think that is the biggest one for me, even now that I've done one agricultural diploma and now a second one in the Hertz Person program. Like you keep building onto yourself, and it's good to look back and be like, wow, I learned a lot, and I'm doing all these things that I always wanted to, and now I am doing them, and now I can learn even more. And to let yourself also be proud of yourself for how far you've come, I would say.
Awesome. That's great to really recognize your strengths and how well you're doing and all of the growth that you've had. That's great, Suze. Carlene, would you like to share on that same note?
I really agree with Suze. Just the enjoyment of my job. I love coming to work every day. And also just getting to learn something new every day. Like agriculture is constantly changing. So being able to come in and, oh, we've started a new project and it's going to show us X, Y, and Z. And it's just absolutely fantastic that I get this opportunity to, I don't know, be on the cutting edge sometimes with agriculture and just being able to learn and continue learning, and it'll never end.
Awesome. That's great. I'm so inspired and excited that you guys all love your career. That's a great thing to keep in mind moving forward in life, to continue that path and keep that as a priority going forward. Cody, would you like to share next?
Sure. My biggest takeaway, and I've mentioned it already, is just there is so much opportunity in the agriculture and food sector that a lot of people would just have no idea about. It's the closest thing I've seen to like a real life career cheat code. There is just so much opportunity available. I never would have begun to even think about how much is there. And in so many different areas as well. We have people like we're seeing up here in the panelists, like Suze, who they tend to work more on the farm or with the animals. And then you have people like Rachel, who are the exact opposite end of that, who work with graphic design and just everything in the middle. I'm blown away by just how much opportunity there is. It's the door has opened to like a whole new world of career opportunities, and I did not expect to learn this much. For those of you who are here and you're kind of thinking about maybe looking at a career in agriculture and food, but you're not sure, I really encourage you, go look at agcareers.com, go look at careersinfood.com, look through some of the jobs that are available on that job board, and I think you'll be really surprised at what opportunities there are out there.
Awesome. That's exciting, Cody. I'm glad you found agriculture and food and seen the opportunities that are available for sure. There's so many out there. Ria, would you like to share on that same note with us?
For sure. So the biggest takeaway, honestly, from this job is the importance of good leadership. So I've been really blessed to be put in a team where everyone that I've came across has been so supportive and so kind. So it's been kind of shocking because like anytime I send an email, I get a reply back, and everyone's always ready to kind of help you out and be there for you. So what I've really learned is although I didn't have much background in agriculture and there was a lot of learning curves for me, it was with good leadership and people who are truly there to support you and encourage your growth, it can be done. Like it's not, I was really scared because I was like, I don't even know anything about farming. I don't know anything about local food, anything like really. But my supervisor and my team, they've been so supportive and so eager to kind of help out. So I've really taken that from this opportunity and how important that is.
That's amazing. I agree. Being part of a great team makes you want to do a good job and
Sure.
enjoy your job each day when you go.
Mhm.
And the next question, I guess, Rachel, I'd like you to also answer that same question about your biggest takeaway from the job so far.
Yeah, of course. I agree with everyone's points so far. Everyone's made really good comments, especially Cody. I would say I would have to agree with him on keeping an open mind and the amount of opportunities within the industry there are. I was a little bit hesitant with this job at first just because I'm trying to gear my career more into like a videography kind of career, less graphic design oriented. But looking at this job, obviously I didn't know what was it going to entail coming into it, but I'm really glad I kept an open mind because it's even working from home, a great work environment. Like the people I work with are great. This job has totally exceeded my expectations for an internship. So yeah, I can't stress like keeping an open mind would be like the biggest takeaway I've took from this job so far. And just to carry that on to pretty much everything you do, whether it's career, school, education, all that. It's great.
Awesome. That's great. I appreciate hearing those takeaways. Those were all very helpful. So I think my next question that I'd like to ask is going to be to Cody and to Ria. What do you think helped you to stand out and get the job that you're working at now? What do you think helped you to get that job over somebody else? Maybe something you did in your interview, maybe something on your resume, some sort of experience you had. Is there one thing in particular, or maybe a multitude of things that you think helped you to stand out? Cody, do you want to lead that question first?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to think it's my great personality and my charm, but realistically, it was probably I had a lot of experience with event planning. So throughout high school, I coordinated a lot of different events and did like trips to like Chile to help rebuild schools and things in smaller scale things like dances and fundraisers and things like that. So that event planning translated really well to the job that I'm doing now, just by coordinating different career fairs and holding virtual events like that. So I think at the time in high school, did not expect that me running a school dance would translate into an internship opportunity for me later on. But in hindsight, it looks like those kinds of experiences are what best translated over and what really helped me stand out, I believe.
Awesome, that's great. And Ria, would you like to answer the same question?
For sure. So to kind of add on to Cody's point about having a vast area of expertise or like experiences, I think something that helped me stand out was researching the interview method that is used by the OPS. So I know when I got the interview invite, I was looking up like different questions that may be asked or the best way to go about it. And a lot of the people who answered those questions mentioned something called the STAR method. So it's like the situation, task, action, and result. So with the OPS interview, I was given the questions 30 minutes prior, or I believe it was like 30 minutes or an hour prior to the actual interview, where I was allowed to kind of prepare for the answers. And a lot of that involved me giving an actual example of the question that was being asked. So for example, if they ask, oh, do you have experience managing like conflict in workplace? So instead of just answering like, yes, I do, I gave like an example of when that happened and how I steered my way around it and like the result of it. So I think that truly helped me kind of stand out. And I know I was also given an opportunity to review my interview once I got hired. So the person who interviewed me, her name is Kim, she set up a meeting to kind of talk about what I did well and what I didn't kind of do well on and what I can strengthen. So what she mentioned was that a lot of my answers included examples, which was a great thing. And also that the answers that I gave her weren't those Google, like, you search up like how to answer, what is your best strength kind of answer. So it was all kind of personalized to me and the job posting. So I think that's what truly helped me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Ria. I think that's a great take-home message for all of us to consider going forward with interviews. That's a great skill to have and a great thing to remember when we're sitting in that interview. If you're in your job search phase right now, thinking about providing those examples and personalizing your answers, I think really will help you to stand out. Great job. So Cody kind of alluded to this already about previous experience and previous knowledge in or previous opportunities that he had that have taken information forward to his current job in terms of extracurricular involvement in high school. So my next question is actually tied to that, and about being involved in clubs or groups, maybe in high school or on campus, at college or university, and whether that has maybe helped you in your job, certain skills that you're doing and using now, or maybe landing that job in the first place. And I'm going to ask that question of Suze and also of Carlene. So Suze, would you like to go first? Were you involved in some different clubs? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I did a lot of 4-H. So I did a lot of showing dairy cows, and I did a lot of farm tours already at a young age, just, going to the farms, seeing all the different types of buildings and milking equipment and types of herds that everybody had. So I was involved with that already when I was 8 or 9, 7, maybe even already. And then in high school, I right away got it. Well, even before high school, I started milking part-time for my neighbor. And then I took on a second part-time milking job. So I was milking at 2 different dairy farms through all of high school and getting experience that way, seeing how they did it, why they did it differently, and exposing yourself, because in the dairy industry, the best way you can learn is from each other, because everybody, it's just different from pigs and chickens. It's very standard there. You feed them the same. It's the same type of buildings. But with dairy farms, everybody has a different parlor. Everybody has a different type of stall. Everybody has different equipment. And it's all different. So going and touring farms was a very big one for me. In my grade 12 year, I did a co-op at Mapleview Agri. They make calf milk replacer, but they also have a research veal barn where they do trials on the calves with the milk replacer. So I was there for just shy of 4 months, and that was a big opportunity for me to get more hands-on work with the calves, but then also get more into more business side of things. So that was also a really good opportunity for me. And then I also went overseas. I went to the Netherlands for 3 months, and I worked on a dairy farm and a cash crop farm there for 3 months, and I loved that. That was absolutely fantastic. So I really exposed myself to a lot of different sides of the industry, and I think that was the best thing that I could have done, especially going into an agricultural college after that.
Awesome. It sounds like you've had lots of great opportunities and experiences that have certainly added lots of skills to your tool belt at your new job. So I'd also like to ask that same question about involvement in clubs or groups, maybe in high school or in college or university. I'd like to ask that same question of Carlene. So if you could share with us your experience and maybe how that's helped you in your current job or getting this current job.
Yes, so I also did 4-H growing up. I did a lot of the animal clubs, so you learn to take care of the animals and how to show them. So that doesn't quite connect, but my brothers took a lot of different field crop clubs where you go around to the different fields and you kind of see what equipment the farmer uses to plant and harvest. So I got a bit of experience through that. And then just growing up on a farm, that really showed me what it takes to do this job and to do it well. Just the amount of work, the amount of hours that goes into it. Also in high school, I completed my specialist high skill major in agriculture. So it was mostly traveling to different farms. We would go to greenhouses. We would go to a butchery. We went and did a bunch of training, and that really helped me because it just showed all the different aspects of agriculture in my small area that I hadn't realized existed before that point.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for your answers there. That's really helpful. And so I guess one of my last questions that I have for you all is, what advice would you give somebody thinking about a career in agriculture? What would you tell them? So we will start with Cody.
Yeah, so the advice I would give is kind of similar to the advice I gave earlier about somebody who's looking for any kind of career path in terms of keeping an open mind. When you're looking for a career in agriculture, it's important to combine what you're passionate about and what you want to do with the agriculture field. And it's really easy to do because, like I've been saying this entire webinar, there's a lot of different opportunities. So if you are someone like me who's passionate about working with people and giving customer service, then certainly make sure you connect those two together. And similar, if you're like Rachel and you're really interested in graphic design, then again, it's really easy to connect those two. So definitely, if you're looking to get into a career within agriculture, combine something you're passionate about, something you want to do with the opportunities that are available.
Awesome. Rachel, could you answer the same thing?
Yeah, so my answer is pretty similar to Cody again, but just to reiterate, like definitely keep an open mind and don't dismiss anything before doing your research. Like definitely I wasn't expecting to be working within the industry, but here I am and I love it. And yeah, I just from what I've learned in the past couple months, you know, if you hear the word agriculture, like I originally would only think of people just working on farms, but I recently learned that that's only about like I think 10% of the jobs in the whole agricultural industry. So definitely do your research, you know, visit agcareers.com. They have tons of job opportunities listed that you definitely wouldn't expect to find. And just, yeah, keep an open mind when looking for your career path.
That's great. And Suze, I know you had a background in agriculture, so you already knew what kind of opportunities might be out there, but what would you say to somebody either with an ag background or a non-ag background looking for a job in agriculture?
I would say just not to limit yourself, even if you're already in the ag industry. To like, even the kids that do grow up on a farm, sometimes they don't want to take over the farm and they want to do something else in agriculture, and not to feel guilty or anything if you decide to pass up the home farm to, you know, work on installing equipment into barns. That's okay. Like, it's fine. Like, everybody is different. Yeah, again, the open mind concept is generally is the best advice that you could give, because it is such a vast industry. And especially to to know again that this is the job you're going to go to every day, and what is it, what feeling do you want to get at the end of the day, or satisfaction or purpose fulfillment or whatever it is. You have a talent. Everybody is given a talent, and this industry has many different places that you can grow that talent and pursue it. And that the opportunity is there, but sometimes it can be really scary, and sometimes you really have to have confidence in yourself to go after it and to pursue it, whether that's taking over a 600 cow dairy or whether that is working in something like the research plots. It's all equally as awesome, and it's all out there for you to take a hold and advantage of.
Great thoughts. Thanks, Suze. It's great to hear your passion about agriculture. Carlene, would you like to share as well what you might say or what advice you might give to somebody thinking about a career in agriculture and food?
Yeah, my biggest recommendation would be to ask questions. There are plenty of people in the industry, and a lot of them have platforms and social media that they use. I would be asking as many questions as I can, get to know the different possibilities in that career if that's something that interests you. Just go out there and get to know people, because agriculture, it's it's a bit of a problem how it's almost a small community on its own. It seems that everybody knows each other, but if you get out there and you get to know people and you can hear about different opportunities that are available, you can hear that, oh, I know somebody that's looking for somebody in that career. You could talk to them. So I would recommend that they get to know people and they ask questions and just show an interest. Nothing gets a farmer more excited than you asking how he farms or how he does his business.
Awesome. Great advice, Carlene. That lines up a lot with what Ria said before about networking and the importance of that, and how much that can help you. Would you like to share your advice, Ria, about somebody looking at a career in agriculture?
For sure. So I think everyone who went before me had such great advice. So I would just like to add on to what has already been said. So keeping an open mind, of course, is a very important thing. And also realizing that agriculture isn't just farms and cows and stuff. Like if you feel intimidated by it, like don't be, because there's so many different opportunities within agriculture. So just feel like just go into it with an open mind and realize that you're going to learn as you go, and it's not as intimidating as it may seem.
Awesome. That's great advice. So that concludes my questions that I have for our panel today, but I have received a couple other questions in the chat box and by email that I would certainly like to address with you guys as well. So before I get into those questions, I would like to thank our panelists for today for your participation, and your answers have been interesting. They've been thought-provoking. I've really enjoyed hearing your perspective and hearing more about your opportunities within the agriculture and food sector and the backgrounds that you bring to these specific careers. I also would like to thank all of the participants that have been here today. We hope that you've enjoyed hearing from the panelists, and we hope to see you at some of our virtual career fairs and webinar events. If you do click on that chat section, you'll see that there's a link to agcareers.com where you can see live jobs, career profiles, and the job seeker library. There's also a link in the chat section for feedingyourfuture.ca. That's where you can find information to sign up for upcoming webinars and upcoming virtual career fairs. You can also see replays of some of our past webinars as well. So there's lots of information in there available. So the first question that I have for our panel is, how should we promote careers in agriculture to attract more people into careers? What are the top things that the industry and education should be doing to promote all the opportunities in agriculture and in food? On our panel today, some of you don't come necessarily from an agriculture background, so I'm interested in hearing your perspective, but also interested in hearing those that do come from an agriculture background. So I will go through and you can add what thoughts you might have on that. Ria, would you like to start?
For sure. I think a lot more visibility on social media platforms and platforms such as LinkedIn could be very beneficial. I know that I wasn't personally aware of the links that were put in the chat today. So like after this webinar, the first thing I'm going to do is go on those websites and kind of look around. So perhaps more promotion of sites like that, because these are such valuable and resourceful places to look. So I would just say that, like, more visibility and more promotion, so folks outside of agriculture and this field specifically can learn more and maybe venture out more.
Great advice. Marlene, would you like to share your thoughts?
I agree with Ria that there needs to be more information kind of in media, because a lot of the time you see kind of the negative aspects of agriculture. You see the things that maybe not that happens everywhere, like the bad apples. So I think there needs to be more education provided, especially for younger kids, just to give them an understanding and show that there are this many opportunities available to them. They could, if they like cows, they don't necessarily have to milk cows all the time, but they could do nutrition. They could do some of the breeding with them. Like, there's so many opportunities available, but a lot of kids now that live in cities don't necessarily know where their food comes from, and that can kind of cause issues there. So I think just learning more, teaching especially young kids about agriculture would really help.
Awesome. Great advice. Suze, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I was definitely going to touch on the educational system as well. Like in high school, you get different colleges that come by and do presentations, and I think more that of that if they educated kids more in like any subject at school, that they could put it into where your food comes from, things like that. Everybody has such a little red barn on the green hill picture of farming still, and it's not that. If you tell people that, yeah, I milk cows with a robot, they're like, really? That's crazy. Like, it's nuts to think of. And it's not even that. It's also all the research that goes on in the crops, and it's all the other things that go with that, livestock and crops and plants. It's very intensive, and it's very developing all the time. So I think she made a good point that we need to educate our kids younger in school, and then also that any educational places like Ridgetown that do offer agricultural studies should also be in those high schools and act those kind of kind of places where they can promote their programs so that kids are like, oh, that's a thing that I can pursue. And I don't have to actually be in a barn filled with manure. Like I don't have to, you know, so I think the best thing that would change all of that is starting with changing people's image of the industry itself first. That's a good place to start.
Awesome. That's great advice, Suze. Cody, do you have anything to add in terms of attracting more people into careers in food and in agriculture?
Yeah, I think like Sue's really hit the nail on the head, and for what I was thinking, I think just the idea of normalizing, breaking down a lot of those stereotypes that people see when it comes to what you think of when you think of the agriculture industry. I know us as a company, we're guilty of it as well sometimes. We're promoting a career fair. What images do we want to use? Well, let's use a field, let's use a barn, let's use some animals, but not very often you're going to see people using scientists or boardroom meetings or things that you would see in almost any other area. So I think that by promoting those ideas more, people are going to start to realize there's a lot more to agriculture than just working on a farm.
Absolutely, that's great. Rachel, would you have anything else to add?
I don't have much to add. I think everyone made really great points. But yeah, I think like increasing presence on social media is a big one, just to, yeah, I guess further educate people and then find a way to make that appealing so people are, you know, interested in clicking on links and such. And this is more from like a design perspective, I guess. But yeah, just making it seem a bit more modern, because obviously, like Sue says, it's not just a red barn on a hill somewhere. Like the industry is becoming more modernized. So I think the image people see on places like social media should match that as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Great advice. So I also see some questions that have come in around opportunities for international work opportunities. And so there's options to connect with us on our websites, but we also do have a webinar coming up on September 10th. Watch our social media for more information, but it will be a webinar on how to navigate finding an agriculture job in Canada. So you can connect with us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn through our Ag Careers platform and our Careers in Food platforms. And you'll find more information as it's available on that webinar. So hopefully we would give you some tips and some advice throughout that webinar. So stay tuned for that as well. And for now, I think that we have addressed all the questions that have come in. So a huge thank you to our panelists today. You guys have led us to lots of great insight. There's been lots of great information that you have shared with us today. So I do really appreciate you taking the time to share with our audience. And I'm sure we'll have more people tune in and watch the replay as well. So thank you so much for your participation today. And thank you for coming to watch our live event. So if there are any questions, you can certainly contact us as well through our Feed Your Future platform. So thank you and have a great day. We hope to see you at some of our virtual career fairs and online webinars. Take care. Have a great day.